Sony just stealth launched a brand new DualSense. Was the PS6 just confirmed by Sony? Here's how Sony can fix the DualSense Edge. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. It's the weekend edition of the show. Ray is back this week. Unfortunately, last week he got in a car accident.
I did. Yeah. I got to live out kind of your dreams for Need for Speed.
So the first thing we have to talk about today is a brand new surprise DualSense from Sony. We just got the DualSense Edge. We just had the metallic red, the metallic gray DualSenses leak. We really just got the God of War Ragnarok DualSense, but Sony was not content with those four that I just listed. And now we've got one for Hogwarts Legacy. That's kind of weird that this isn't releasing around the same time as the game. The only thing I can think of as a reason why would be the DualSense Edge. Like, they don't want to give, like, obviously a $200 controller versus a normal priced ish $70, $80 controller that's Harry Potter themed and it's a black controller with gold accents that show off the whole Hogwarts castle. There's one controller people are going to buy in that scenario, and it's not the DualSense Edge. So you can kind of see why they're maybe pushing this one back a little bit, but still, if I was playing Hogwarts Legacy, I would want to have this controller.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's just like a black PlayStation controller, a black DualSense with, like you said, the gold accents. The trackpad is pretty cool, like you said, with Hogwarts laid out in gold. That's pretty like, whatever, but it also kind of feels somewhat like you can find a skin that you can put on, like a little decal on your already black controller and just rock with that at the same time. I don't know.
I feel like they hit the point where they'd have to raise the price too much on the controller.
Yeah, and they're easier to mass produce if the design is simpler and like all that. I get it. But for me, I'm like, I'm
still rocking that DualSense Edge. I don't think I can go back at this point. That controller is just so good. I love the way it feels in the hand, and I like the grip, that it's not rubberized like on the Elite Controller V2, so I can like have peace of mind that the controller isn't going to fall apart in my hands. And the fact that the stick caps lock in, they like snap in. I'm like, thank you, Sony. Thank you for taking notes. I really appreciate it.
You like that snap, crackle, pop?
Yeah, I don't like the magnets because I opened the case for my Elite Series 2 and the little stick heads just fall out.
I felt like I was gonna break it when I was checking it out on that last video, because it's like it takes a lot of force. I'm like, I feel like one of these days I'm gonna slip up and like actually do some damage to this.
Yeah, so I've been using it a ton in Dead Space, obviously, because the aiming in that game for some reason is super floaty. Been using it in a Need for Speed Unbound. I'm playing it on PC, but it works like the DualSense Edge. So I don't think I'm going to pick up this Harry Potter controller. I love Harry Potter, but like you said, it's a little bit of an understated design. I have 4 DualSenses now. I have the white one, the black one, I have the God of War one, and now the Edge. I think I'm good. I want a Last of Us controller. I'm shocked they didn't have one ready to go for the Last of Us Part 1. Even if they just reproduced the one that they made right at the end of the PS4's life cycle, they put out a Last of Us Part 2 PS4 Pro and controller that had Ellie's tattoo etched into it, and it was so sick. I would pay so much money for that on a DualSense. Speaking of The Last of Us, Sony not only just had The Last of Us Part 3 leaked, but they also kind of had the PS6 leak, which is kind of crazy because the PS6 has been talked about a lot lately. Tom Henderson was like, hey, I haven't heard anything about a PS5 Pro, but I have heard a lot about the PS6. And then here we are a couple weeks later, and we're hearing about The Last of Us Part 3 being in production at Naughty Dog, and it has the PS6 in mind. So what we're thinking is it'll come out towards the end of the PS5 generation and either get a patch or a re-release, like rebox set, sort of like The Last of Us Part 1 or Last of Us Remastered for the PS6.
This is so crazy that we're talking about the PS6, man. It's like, damn, I feel like it was just yesterday when I walked out of Best Buy with my Xbox One after trading in my 360 for it. And now we're talking about PS6, bro. Like, that's insane. But yeah, I'm seeing that Dom the Bomb on Twitter.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He said, like, yeah, this is going to release for the PS6 in mind, and then also on the PlayStation 5, The Last of Us Part 3. And it's like, it's just insane that we're at this point right now. But it lines up with like what like dev cycles have become, over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it basically says that Naughty Dog has another game coming out in between. I don't think Naughty Dog's a one game a generation studio, like 2 minimum.
The last part of his tweet is the most interesting to me. The budget for The Last of Us Part 3 is going to be dependent on how well the show does on HBO.
It's going to be the most funded PlayStation game of all time. That show's getting more viewers every single week. That was a weird point.
Yeah, but how does that work with like people who watch it on streaming and like like it's not traditional, I guess, ad revenue?
Yeah, like the show's successful. They already renewed it. So
yeah,
like, that's a weird point in the article, which kind of makes me a little bit suspicious of it. Like, I don't think we'll be waiting that long for The Last of Us Part 3 personally, just because they released their last game in 2020. Like, you can't really count The Last of Us Part 1 because it was made at a different studio, and then Naughty Dog kind of took over it and got it over the finish line. There's no way the whole studio was working on that game. And it's not like a Gears 6 situation where they had to cancel 2 games in between, right? Like the Coalition did. I feel like this game is already in at least pre-production, and we'll probably see it around 2025, 2026. Mainly because the show's they're not gonna do a Game of Thrones thing again.
Well, because they have to, okay, season 1, that's Last of Us Part 1. And they've already come out and said that the second season is going to focus on Part 2. So they have to wait for the game to come out before they keep going with the show. Right?
Season 2, I think I saw a rumor that season 2 will be splitting Part 2 into 2 parts. But yeah, even considering that, like, you've got 3 seasons that theoretically you could tell over like 4 years. I think
like 2 years for the last season of Game of Thrones, just to be disappointed.
I don't think they're gonna like allow that to happen again, where you get this last season of the show, Part 3, before you get the actual source material, which is the game. So the fire is under Naughty Dog's ass to get this game finished, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Like you were just saying, smaller team probably involved in that, but a larger force probably dedicated in some capacity to Last of Us Part 3. We know that they're not working on Uncharted anymore, so...
Yeah, right. And Uncharted, I don't know what's going on with that series. Of course, the rumor is his daughter is going to take over. It's going to be strange playing as like a teenager murdering thousands of people, right? Like, that was the cognitive dissonance of Uncharted. Like, Nathan Drake has killed at least a country's worth of people. But it's like, oh, it's an Indiana Jones style game. They're pirates. It's okay. Like, no one really cares if these people die. You killed them in the African plains or like in Scotland. They're going to get eaten by vultures or lions or whatever. It's fine. But it's like, if you're a 16-year-old girl, she's not packing. She's not going to be able to just
she's not built like that.
Off someone's dead body and start spraying bullets at a pirate. So I don't know. Maybe they'll age her up to be like an adult or something like that. Because as violent as Uncharted is, it had nothing on those Tomb Raider reboots. Like,
no.
Did you play those?
No. And not only was it violent, but it was also just like
gruesome,
sad. Like Lara Croft dealing with depression and like freaking like PTSD and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I wonder if they'll go that route.
I'll never forget the first time I played Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the newest one, and you're playing through this part where she causes this whole city to be like flooded, and there's a part where you're like crawling around a corner, Nathan Drake style, and then this lady drops a kid into the raging river, and it's like, oh, okay, that's this kind of game, huh?
We're thinking PlayStation 6 terms, like, and we're only 3 years into this generation. I feel like we haven't really even scratched the surface of. We're just now starting to see like some of the cooler titles for this gen coming out.
Where's
and
the
now
Vita
we're starting.
2?
You gotta give up on the Vita 2, bro.
Where is it? Sony.
You gotta give up on the Vita 2, bro. There's no way. There's no. I mean, it would be
Nintendo's
awesome.
selling $70 handheld games now. Anyway, let's switch back to controller land here to talk about the DualSense Edge once again, because as much praise as I've thrown at it, there is one critical flaw of this controller, and that is the battery life. At first, I thought it was on par with the regular DualSense. Now that I've used this thing for like an entire weekend, I understand why they put that 9-foot cord in there, man. This thing needs to be charging at all times. Yeah. Also, cameraman Rich was saying in Hogwarts Legacy, it went down so fast, he had to go get lunch, and he was like, I got to plug the controller in because it's already at 1 bar. The problems are real. The fact that the battery itself is smaller is a problem.
Well, it's so tough, especially because so many people buying this controller are expecting to use it wirelessly. Yeah. They game on a couch in front of their freaking OLED TV or whatever the hell, and yeah, having to have that freaking 9-foot wire like it's 2008 or something.
See,
like it's just not the expectation.
I'm used to it because I play a lot of my games on PC as well, and I prefer the DualSense. I think it's a great controller, and to get a lot of the DualSense features, you have to be wired anyway. So I was already living that.
But you're at a desk, right?
No, I play on my couch.
Oh, you play on your
use
couch.
Picture mode on Steam, which is like the Steam Deck's interface blown up on your TV. It's kind of awesome. And yeah, I use a wire, and then sometimes at my desk I use the same wire, like the charging cable for my PS5.
Yeah, at a desk it's no problem. I use my Elite Series 2 at my desk, and when I was playing Hi-Fi Rush, I had it plugged in to cut down on the latency, so I could really like hit those beats, baby, and I was crushing it sometimes.
So I'm gonna give some people some tips here on how to save your battery life, though, if you have a DualSense.
Oh, yeah. It's savable?
Yeah, buy the media remote. It's like $20 right now. It's on sale. I just saw this week. I'll link it down in the description. If you're streaming stuff, if you're using YouTube, if you're using HBO Max, if you're using Disney Plus, use this remote because it allows you to log in, control the entire PS5, and it won't kill the battery on your DualSense. Because I feel like that's the culprit for a lot of people and their DualSense battery dying really fast is you turn on the controller to pause your Netflix thing, and then you don't take the extra 15 seconds to like say beep, turn off the controller, or you don't go into the settings, which is another tip, and change it to auto off every 5 minutes, which I did. That still drains the out of the battery when you're not using the controller, having it just sit there for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's so annoying when you have to turn off the controller, like when you're watching Netflix or something, because then you maybe want to pause and you got to turn back the controller on. And you might or you want to rewind because something crazy happened, then you got to turn the controller back on anyway. It's like it's such a hassle sometimes.
So spend the money, get the dedicated media remote. It matches the whole aesthetic of the PS5, and if you have it next to your TV remote, it looks fine. It also connects to most TVs and allows you to change the volume and power the TV on and off, which is great. I think for $20, you really can't go wrong with that. I honestly use it every day, like every single day. I love that thing. And also, yeah, like I just mentioned, go into your settings, make it so your controller turns off after like 5 minutes of not using it. There's little things you can do like that, but really the smartest thing that I would say is to buy a power bank, or at least have a power strip near where you play your games. Because if you have a power strip, you can just charge the controller with like your iPhone charger or whatever.
How would the PlayStation fan base feel about an external battery that you swapped out instead of built into the controller?
I don't know, man. We've been
like you have all this
charging life for so long.
Like you have all the space for all the stuff in the DualSense, plus like all the fancy stuff that they add in for the Edge, and then on the outside, like that's the Xbox battery.
360 controller,
like the
GameCube Wavebird. Yeah, you're thinking like that.
Yeah, like once the battery's dead after 6 hours, you swap it out, and then go boom. Instead of having to charge it or plug it back in, you have an extra 6 hours of battery life. But like, yeah, I'm trying to just think about like sometimes if you don't want to plug it in, or if that's not an option, who knows? I don't know. Yeah, that's the trade-off, man. It's like on Xbox, they release a ton of controllers, but they're mostly the same over like
that new
the past couple of years. The Stellar Shift.
That is the same controller as the Aqua Shift that they came out with. I was like, do I have
it's a different
Mandela effect? Like
it's supposed to be the blue version of the Lunar Shift. Now you gotta check yourself, brother. You gotta check yourself.
What are we even
the Lunar Shift was the silver kind of ombre metallic one. This is like blue, purple, Pop-Tart color.
There's one that is the exact same that came out with the Xbox Series X.